everyone, it's Mary Brownlee, licensed professional counselor and trauma therapist. Today we're going to talk about a very important topic. This has to do with individuals who have come from very abusive relationships, whether it's with family members or perhaps people they've dated, and they come away from the relationship feeling extremely nuts, like they're the crazy one. They don't even know what reality is anymore, and they blame themselves a lot for what has happened. And so there's a reason this happens to people in abusive relationships. Abusers everywhere of all types, narcissistic and otherwise, oftentimes undermine their victim's sense of reality through three different behaviors. We're going to go over gaslighting, projection, and blame shifting. Those are the three things that really contribute when done, of course, on a very consistent basis, which abusers do, that will create lots of problems in victims, including really undermining their sense of identity. It's hard to know themselves. It's hard to know what's actually true. And a lot of times they're taking way too much accountability for what's going on in the relationship, more than they actually should. And sometimes the abuser even convinces them that they are the problem. So this is a big problem. And every time I come across a client who has this type of trauma, I make sure that we go over these three terms in detail so that they can finally understand what has actually been done to them, which is psychological and emotional abuse. Let's not mince words. And so it's important to be able to know what these words are so that you can spot them in the future, and so that you know if a very disordered person is attempting to do this to you, you know what it is now. You have a language for it. This vocabulary helps to empower you to understand these dynamics and not blame yourself anymore. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, the first one I want to talk about is gaslighting. Maybe some of you have heard this particular term. This really is a very devious and underhanded way of psychologically and emotionally abusing somebody. So essentially, again, it's a repeated pattern. This is not just done once in a while. This is a repeated pattern that an abuser is going to use. And essentially, they're going to tell the victim that their thoughts and their perceptions and their sense of reality is wrong. All right. And they're going to make sure that whatever their sense of perception, thoughts, and realities, that is the only truth. And everything else aside from that is dead wrong. They're going to alter the victim's sense of reality by repeatedly lying and repeatedly telling others that they are wrong when they try to call any type of disordered behavior out or a lie out. If the victim says, no, that's not true, you said XYZ yesterday. They might even have it say in writing, for example. You will see abusers completely gaslight victims and be like, I never said that. I never did that. Again, you could have concrete proof, and they will continue to insist that they did not do XYZ. So that is something we see commonly with gaslighters. And also, when the abuser is called out on any type of inappropriate or abusive behavior, oftentimes what you'll see them do is blame shift back onto the other person, the victim, and call them the abuser and the problem. So you can see how these type of dynamics is completely undermining a victim's sense of reality. Like if they don't have a steady, safe, secure person to talk to, oftentimes victims don't because they're isolated. What happens over time is they begin to doubt their own sense of reality. Like, maybe I am going crazy. Maybe I didn't say that. Well, he or she said that I said XYZ. Maybe I did. Maybe I'm misremembering it, right? So you have enough of this going on over time, and victims will absolutely have their sense of reality eroded to where they don't even trust themselves. So a lot of people coming into trauma therapy do very much lack like a solid sense of identity. They very much have difficulty trusting themselves and their own perceptions. They very much are full of self-blame. So a lot of this comes from this particular psychological and emotional abuse tactic called gaslighting. Here are some examples of gaslighting. When the abuser says, oh, that didn't happen. So again, you could have actual proof that yes, it did happen. Say it's in writing, say it's through video, say you had a friend with you who saw it happen. Oh, that didn't happen. You're misremembering it. No, you're making that up, so they'll just flat out just completely deny what actually did happen. You're imagining things, that's a common phrase. Oh, you're too sensitive. It's one I hear all the time from my clients. They were told consistently, especially if they were in abusive families, that they were the sensitive one, like too sensitive, as in you're the one that's making a mountain out of a molehill, and you're the overly sensitive one that's always a crybaby, and you just can't take a joke. So again, they're going to gaslight the victim's sense of reality by making them the problem. Oh, why can't you just take a joke? You're the one who is the problem. You're just never happy. So there is a lot of just, again, you see how that's altering the victim's sense of what actually has occurred, because of course they can never be right. And abusers, as we all know, they're always right and the victim is always wrong. So you do this enough and you're going to have a victim that by the time they come see a trauma therapist, if they're able to at all, they will have serious doubts about what has actually occurred to them. And some even believe the perpetrator's story that they are truly the problem. So the next psychological and emotional abuse tactic is called blame shifting. So this happens when, again, an inappropriate, harmful behavior is, and of course, blame shifting is happening regularly, not just once in a while. Abusive relationships, we're seeing the pattern happen repeatedly. So again, inappropriate or harmful behavior is attempted to be addressed by the individual, say the victim here, and then the harmful or the dysfunctional person attempts to redirect the attention back onto the person bringing up the problem. And now they're blaming them for the problem. This is super common with highly dysfunctional and disordered people of all types, that anytime you try to actually solve some sort of problem or concern, you just want to talk about it. Maybe you're not even like raising your voice or coming at them harshly. You just want to talk. They are not going to be able to withstand any type of adult discussion. Instead, what they're going to do is immediately blame shift back onto you. You're the actual problem, not them. So again, this helps the abuser avoid accountability for harm by shifting focus back onto you. As long as they can keep the focus on you, they don't have to be accountable and they don't have to change, because abusers are never going to change. Oh, no, 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 no. Again, it's always everybody else's fault, not theirs. Some examples of blame shifting here. Well, if you hadn't done, fill in the blank with whatever behavior, if you hadn't done blank, I wouldn't have had to do blank, So yeah, just fill in whatever your verbs of choice there. Maybe you've heard this one. And again, they're shifting blame back onto the victim. Like if you hadn't made me mad, I wouldn't have hit you. That might be a common one that people in domestic violence relationships might hear. In fact, I've even heard, incredibly sadly, a lot of women in domestic violence relationships actually blame themselves for being physically harmed. Oh, well, he did hit me, but actually we were in an argument and I shouldn't have said that one comment. You'll see them blame themselves. Oh, this just breaks my heart when I hear this. Another example is turning the focus from the present problem that you're trying to actually work out, just have a dialogue about, into things that you supposedly did 10 years ago. So this is, or 5 years or 3 years or whatever it was. They will always, again, try to shift the focus back onto you. And oftentimes they're bringing up things that, first of all, don't even relate to whatever you're trying to dialogue about. And of course, maybe some slight, usually very small slight that they have blown out of proportion, but yet they're still holding a grudge. And we're going to bring up that thing you said 10 years ago that hurt their feelings, even though you've apologized for that thing you said 10 years ago and you thought the problem was no longer a problem. So that's another thing I see commonly. In response to maybe a mean comment, they might tell you, you're too sensitive, you can't take a joke. As I mentioned in my prior slide, and they say that a lot. Oh, how dare you bring that up when you know I'm so tired from work? So yeah, they'll come up with some sort of excuse like, how dare you bring this to my attention when you know that I'm so stressed out, or I'm, fill in the blank. Responding to a genuine request to address a problem with a counter argument of you always and you never. This is so common. See this all the time. We get out the you guns, as I like to say. They get out the you guns and they point them at you. Well, you always and you never. And again, who could blame the abuser for reacting the way they did? After all, you're just so hard to get along with. And you're just so annoying to them all the time. And you're always the one bringing up problems and making it all about you. So this is the common kind of blame shifting things that we see abusers and highly dysfunctional people use to, again, avoid accountability and keep the focus back on you so that you'll drop, whatever it is you're trying to talk to them about and leave them alone. Because again, say it with me, abusers have no desire to change. Oh, no. They're not going to do that. They got to be in control all the time. And that includes their reality and their perceptions and their thoughts remain status quo. And everybody else's are essentially not important and in fact a problem to the abuser. Okay, the next one is projection. See this one a lot as well in highly disordered people. So this is when an individual assumes that others are a very specific way, when in fact it's the actual individual who is the one with those negative qualities. So here are some common examples. You might see somebody who lies a lot call other people liars, when actually they are the one that have the problem with the truth. Someone who frequently yells and screams at a victim will accuse the victim of being the one that they have to walk on eggshells around. When again, really, it's the perpetrator who's the screamer and the yeller and the aggressive one. A controlling and manipulative person might accuse the person they're in a relationship with of being manipulative and controlling. Or somebody who cheats frequently will accuse their partner of being the one that cheats. So this is common ways that projection, again, this is undermining the victim's sense of reality, because just when they try to hold the abuser accountable, whoop, oh no, we're going to keep the focus back on the victim, keep them off balance, not allow them to bring things up, punish them for bringing things up, projecting our own negative qualities onto the victim. So this is all helping to undermine the victim's sense of reality. This is my personal favorite that I have heard so many times, unfortunately, with a lot of my clients. When an individual attempts to have a very calm dialogue about frequent problems or concerns that might be going on in the relationship, which are not healthy, the dysfunctional person they are in a relationship with will give the classic, why are you always starting drama? The past is in the past. Why can't you just get over it? You're always the one starting problems. So again, you can't have any type of dialogue to fix some actual issue because they have no desire to fix the actual issues. And in fact, they have zero tolerance for actually even having a dialogue about problems or concerns. So again, overall, all three of these are ways that very disordered and dysfunctional people get to blame shift onto victims. They get to escape accountability. They get to deny victims' reality and gaslight them. They get to also alter the entire sense of perception and reality from victims by calling victims the crazy one. And essentially, they don't have to dialogue or fix or do anything about any horrible behaviors that actually are not acceptable. And that really is what disordered people are all about. They are control freaks, and they have no desire whatsoever to fix problems. They have no desire to actually be genuinely connected to people. They oftentimes have problems with empathy and insight into understanding themselves and other people. And essentially, there's a lot of manipulation and other type of abuse tactics that go on in these relationships. All right, I want to leave you with some words of wisdom here. This is a way to reframe. If any abuser or highly disordered person has called you the crazy one, the reframe here, we're going to turn it around here and help you think about this a different way. This actually is a compliment. And you may tell me, like, what? What do you mean by that? That's crazy. Actually, when they're calling you crazy, what that actually means is they can't control you successfully anymore. And they know this. And there is nothing worse to an abuser than not being able to control the victim. So when they can't manipulate or control you anymore, that's when you're going to see the gaslighting and the projection and the blame shifting go up. So take it as a compliment. You are now too smart and too savvy for them to control you. They know the jig is up and they have nothing left but to essentially call you names now and get even worse with the verbal abuse. So yeah, I'm hoping that these 3 things, really having a name and a vocabulary and to be able to describe examples so that you know what these look like. I hope this has been helpful. So if you have a relationship that you've been in where these 3 things are happening a lot, know that you are essentially being emotionally and psychologically abused. This is not a healthy relationship, and it's time to get out of that relationship if it's safe to do so. All right, feel free to drop me any comments below, any questions you might have, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.